Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Sarah and Adam show. I am one of the people I just mentioned. I'm Adam.
You're
This
not
is
Sarah.
Sarah. Not yet. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Um, yeah, it's been a long day for both of us, you in particular.
Mm-hmm. It has been hectic. Hectic AF, as the cool kids say.
I don't think I must not hang out with any cool kids. I was like, that's how I've never heard that. And I'm like, there's one obvious reason for that.
Self-deprecating humor. Starting
Yeah,
strong.
I've made myself sad.
Yeah, it's been a day, so
Yeah.
naturally I've distracted myself with TV.
Yeah, it hasn't been a day for the Queen.
No,
Too soon.
it's probably too
Oh,
soon. Yikes.
okay. Ugh. Sorry, Queen. How many people? I did hear one person say, and they thought they were so clever. You could see it on their face.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, "The Queen is dead. Long live the King." And I was like, "Do you even know who the King is?"
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, "No, like George or something." I'm like, "Don't say things anymore."
Oh boy.
They were like, "What?" Say like about the monarchy, and I'm like, "Just things." Like, if you get to stop talking. It was a very like I'm in the process of leaving my job, and I'm starting to be abrasive to people I don't like finally.
I did that when I left my old job too.
Yeah, I'm like, wow, my professionalism sure did flee. Like it's just gone.
It's
Like
gone.
it's not all the way gone. It hasn't totally frayed. But I'm shocking myself. I'm like, oh my gosh, that was appalling. I better not try to work here again.
Just burn the bridge as you walk out the door. Uh,
Heck yeah.
uh, so wait, what was the question? How many people like said something without knowing what they were saying, basically?
Oh, just the phrase the queen is dead, long live the king
Mm-hmm. Like how many people said that?
that you heard. Yeah, I'm just curious because
I have no
I
idea.
I don't know, like that was something I thought of, and then I'm like, only idiots say that. And then that guy said it like right away. I'm like, yeah, see,
Um, I have
I
no
don't think
idea.
they're idiots actually. Okay,
I'm sure multiple people said it. When these things happen for me at work, I get so involved in just kind of keeping your head above water, and you're doing 5 million things at once, and you're dealing with everyone, literally everyone in the company, but then also everyone in other networks around the world. Like American networks are bugging me, and all like networks in other parts of the world are bothering you for requests. So you aren't really paying attention to what people are saying in the moment because you just don't have time. And there's just too much going on.
okay, so you're better than me. Got it.
You just can't. You literally just can't pay attention to it.
I get it. I totally get it.
So
Yeah, like you were in a zone like you. I was like I was doing other things, and the queen stuff was just like on the side and whatever. But for you, that was like work.
right.
Like that was your focus. So yeah, I get it. Your experience is going to be different. That being said, we didn't come here to talk about this queen.
No.
So we have some news today, and then we both you watched both She-Hulk episodes, right? The
Mm-hmm.
you watched 3 and 4.
Yes, I did.
Cool. Me too. And so we could talk about that. We could talk about Dragon Show, and I figure Rings of Power.
Yep. Yep. I've watched them all.
Well, what do you want to go with for first? Actually, why don't we do news first?
Yeah. Do the news first. Let's talk about that.
Okay, and then what do you think after that? What are your thoughts?
I was thinking She-Hulk first.
Sure.
I feel like we can be pretty brief on that, and then into House of Dragon.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Cool. All right. So not too much news. And to be clear, folks, the people who listen to this, the news that we have, it's just like interesting things that like we discover throughout the week. We're not putting in like an enormous amount of effort like researching things and like, oh my gosh, this new cool thing. But so I do have a couple small things though. So first off, the Acolyte, which is a Star Wars show that will be happening about 100 years prior to the Phantom Menace.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna see that era of Jedi, the High Republic, where the Jedi aren't wearing like uh their sackcloth nonsense. They're actually wearing like cool uniforms and stuff. Anyways, the Acolyte show just cast the lead, and I don't know how to pronounce his name. Actually, it's Lee. I'm pretty sure that's accurate. And then it's Young Jae or Jung Jae. Now they say Jung. I'm pretty sure it's Young, as the male lead. He's the lead from Squid Game, which I haven't seen. So I'm gonna at some point maybe.
I have also not seen it.
I have a feeling you wouldn't. From what I've heard of it, I think you would dislike it.
It's funny because everyone told me to watch it, and I got about, I'm not even exaggerating, maybe 3 minutes into it, and I was like, nope, goodbye.
See, they don't know you like I do.
So you're spot on. Did not like it. But I mean, I obviously saw him in it in that because he's in it right away. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So I'm sure it was just really good in those 3 minutes. I'm sure that probably inspires confidence within you, right?
I didn't not like it because of his acting. I'm not saying that. I just didn't like the storyline. It was a little too aggressive for me.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I could see that absolutely. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing, it's real small, but there's a new cool short clip for Andor. It looked pretty. I don't know. I'm. It's more like I'm just excited. Like, so they have this clip of like a couple of people like trying to intimidate him, and he's just like, he's just like, what? You think you can intimidate me? Like it's, he's fighting back and showing how tough he is. I think, how street smart. And then you're like, oh, this will be cool, and then it's just over already, just instantly.
Because it's that short of a clip.
Right. Like you told me you didn't even think it was a clip. I was like, man. I don't know what you call it then. Like
a snippet,
a pseudo clip, maybe.
A sound up.
Yeah, it was interesting though. So I'm excited for Star Wars news. Obviously, Star Wars stuff. And the other stuff is exciting too. But gosh, we've got so much going on with shows, and it's going to be even busier in 2 weeks when Andor premieres.
Oh man, it's in 2 weeks. That's exciting.
And it's exciting. And the first episode is actually 3 episodes. They're giving us 3.
It's on a Wednesday, correct?
I don't know. The 21st is Wednesday. Yeah.
Whew, that's good. That's good at least.
Yeah. So we'll. Oh yeah, that's the last day of my Yeah, there's a lot going on that day. So anyways, on to, well, so do you have any news, I guess?
No. I was going to look today, and then everything got sidelined.
Yeah, you're good.
So I was lucky I even got time to watch the show. Yeah,
no, I'm super glad you could. And so why don't we talk about She-Hulk for a minute?
All right. So you watched both of them. You watched, because we didn't talk about episode 3 last week, so 3 and 4
correct.
Are out.
Right. Mm-hmm.
What did you think of last week's? I'm trying to remember what happened.
So episode 3, that's where she gets Wong in on the episode, and then we have the shape-shifting elf. We have her having to testify in court. What a D-bag her old coworker used to be.
Yeah.
And the Abomination guy gets released.
Yeah.
I thought it was good.
Yeah, I thought it was like just the thing that I am realizing, like, the more that I watch She-Hulk each week and everything, is it doesn't take itself super seriously, and I kind of like that about it. Because I don't take it seriously, so it makes it very easy for me to just kind of brush aside what's happening and just go with the flow.
Yeah. Good. I mean, yeah, it's nice. Like it's not super crazy involved. It's not like this intricate plot where, all these crazy twists and turns and machinations are happening.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah. So she gets ambushed at the end by those guys who are trying to get some of her blood.
Yes. Yes, that's right. I remember that.
And it didn't work out for them then.
No.
Um, so I liked episode 3 because we saw a couple more male characters who weren't just gross,
Mm-hmm.
which is nice. Like I feel like this show is a little bit gunning for, like we want to see a competent, strong female, and that's great. And I'm liking her more, even though she hasn't gone through any growth yet. Like she's just like reacting to everything, and there's a lot of things I'm like, you could grow here, but that's fine. But I feel like they're focusing on that so much that it can at times just make, like episode 4, you dive right back into men are gross again. So
but episode 4 also plays into the typical female stereotypes as well.
oh, let's talk about 4 in just a minute.
Okay.
Sorry, I kind of I went ahead of myself, but three I thought was good. We saw a few, like Wong he's so eccentric and fun,
Yeah.
like he forced the guy out to break out of prison so he could fight him, so he could be the Sorcerer Supreme. Like it's like you don't believe that about most people, but Wong like sells it so well. He's so eccentric.
I just find it interesting. I don't know why. I find it interesting that out of all of the characters in the Marvel universe that they could have brought in to make more of like a crossover type thing, that they chose Wong. I don't know why. I feel like he was at the bottom of my list of characters to choose. But it works. And I think it works because his character fits that not taking itself too seriously type role really well.
I like that. Yeah, that's a good point. Not to mention, like it's more convenient. Like he can just teleport in and out, and like it's just like I just like how casually he can waltz into a prison, do his hearing, and then waltz out. And like no one cares about the security concern that would pose.
Right.
Like no one's like, so he could just do this at will. Like, do we need to have some contingency in place? Like they just take it for like, everyone's used to supernatural beings in this part of the prison. Like, I guess we'll just allow it.
Well, exactly that, and they don't even flinch at it. They're just like, oh, look at that. There's a hole in the space right here.
Right, and they don't like check him for weapons or anything. Like, I've worked in and around prisons enough in my life that I know that like they take that sort of thing. Like if someone could do that, like they get real bothered when drones fly around, even.
Right.
Like just because drones have a potential for security threat of just dropping something in. Like they're a huge thing. Like, yeah. And Wong's just like, oh, here I am. Let me take take my testimony. Oh, you just told me I committed a crime. Let me leave. Like,
yeah, but it fits like the whole theme of the show.
Oh, it totally does. He adds a lot to it. I also noticed, so you've mentioned it a few times. I was kind of waiting for you to bring it up, but you just refuse to fricking do it. So you brought it up a few times, and I noticed it way more in these last two. She breaks the fourth wall a lot more in these two.
Yeah, she does. It's really and that goes into like the not taking itself seriously. It's aware of the fact that it's a TV show, and it just makes it. I feel like if you were to have this show with the same storyline that it has right now and the same humor and everything, but remove that fourth wall breaking and remove the kind of like poking fun at itself sort of vibe that it has, it wouldn't land. Like I feel like it would be more of a flop because it would come across just as this really cheesy, jokey show that doesn't work as well. And I think the reason why it works is because of that.
Okay, I could see that. Yeah, I think that, yeah, you're right. Um, it it needs something like that. One thing that I was thinking about though too, so like if you rewind to the second episode,
Mm-hmm.
you remember when she gives, like, so they're walking through the law firm. She just got her job. He's guiding her to her office,
Mm-hmm.
and he's talking to her, and she's talking to the fourth wall, and she's talking about how, oh my gosh, these stupid dumbos, like all these men
Mm-hmm.
here who are so stupid, don't even have to work as hard as me, and all this stuff. And then it's very ironic to me because then the guy's asking her a question and she has no idea what she said, so she just bluffs.
Right.
And she's one of those dumbos who's not taking the job seriously in that moment.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, she's being so hypocritical. She's like, I have to work so hard, but she's not working hard in the moment. She's fourth walling.
Right. But like I think that's part of the humor.
Well, yeah, I'm wondering what she said, the thing about agnostic. Like, we'll see if that pops up at some point. But
Mm-hmm.
anyways, yeah. So three was interesting. Um, yeah, I don't really have that much to say. Like, nothing really progressed for her in a way.
No, I think 3 was just more of like you see her getting stabilized at this law firm and
Yeah.
basically being in her She-Hulk character, She-Hulk persona for work.
Oh, and it sets up Pug, or whatever his name is, as a potential, like, only person she's probably likely to date ever
Right.
character.
Mm-hmm.
Because then he's very obviously missing in the fourth.
Yes, yes, he is.
But he's like the only decent human being of a guy that there is, except for maybe her dad.
Right.
Or Hulk too, but he's off space things-ing it up.
Mm-hmm. He's elsewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. Yeah, it felt like it was more of a. I don't even really want to call it a filler episode, but just kind of seeing
Yeah.
her. I don't know, get stable. I
I
guess.
I kind of hate the label filler episodes. Like, I get that there's a certain type of episode that sort of thing happens, sure.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really like that label though. I would prefer, like, I don't know, I don't even know what the right phrase, like,
Like
thing is, but
foundational or background
yeah,
builder.
something like that. Yeah, I even had a word and now it's eluding me, but you know it is just giving us more background. Like, it's foundational is fine for now. Yeah, but it was that. But we do need to know, like, an establishment, maybe
Mm-hmm.
establishing, like, we need to know what she's like. And then I thought it was interesting too, like, those guys attack her and she's like, fine, let's fight. And she actually does reluctantly embrace the She-Hulk.
Right.
She decides to fight them. And so going into the fourth one, her dad's there and he's like, you just got attacked by 4 men
Mm-hmm.
and I'm gonna protect you. And she's like, I'll just beat him up again. Like, she clearly doesn't. I felt like that was a little hubristic, or like, she's showing a lot of hubris there, of like, if they attack me again, like, no big deal. We don't need to call the cops. I'll just beat him again.
Right. Which I feel like is a like that whole interaction felt like a very typical reaction to me, minus obviously her reaction to it because most women wouldn't react that way in a I'll just beat him up again type of thing.
Sure.
Um, which feeds into the fact that I think that she is more leaning into this She-Hulk side of her.
Yeah, you can see she's reluctantly embracing, like, it has some perks,
Right.
which I don't know. I don't know if I'm. So she's trying to date. Like, the whole thing is about her dating, basically, in
Right.
this episode.
This whole episode, yes.
Oh, real quick, let me rewind. Did you were you able to tell like at what point did you tell the shape-shifting elf?
Mm-hmm.
Did you see her coming, like did you spot her subterfuge right away
Um,
in episode 3?
like when she shapeshifted, you mean? Could I tell that she had shapeshifted, or could
Well, okay, so the gross guy was in the office
Yeah,
there with Pug, and then he left, and then he came back in. He's like, actually, I decided not to.
yeah, I could tell that. I knew when he like reached for whatever it was. I think it was like a snack or a drink or something on the desk, and I was like, just like the reaction there was weird.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's when I clued in that it wasn't right.
Yeah, I was like, the second he walked in again, I was like, that's her. That is absolutely her. And it was.
Yeah.
I
So
was like, yeah, I'm paranoid. This is cool.
yeah, I'm paranoid. Yeah, no, but I thought it was good. Like it was well done.
Sure. Okay. Sorry. Let's have all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
So episode 4, she's dating. He's decided to do law things. Apparently, they're not interested in pressing any kind of charges for him.
Mm-hmm.
Helping a prisoner escape and everything.
Yeah, it's fine.
And, well, and he lives in a different country, and yet he's able to just use the American legal system to do what he needs. Apparently, I don't know how that works.
Um, I don't know how. I think it depends on where the crime happens.
Sure, I guess.
Isn't that why people get extradited?
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure that's why.
That's cool. That's pretty sweet. No, so there's the perpetually drunk, or maybe she's not drunk. She's just kind of real ditzy
Mm-hmm.
girl.
Perpetuating the female stereotypes right there.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's it right, like nail on the head. See a girl in a outfit out at a bar, she's got to be a ditz.
Well, sure. Yeah, I mean, yeah, she absolutely was. It painted her really disparagingly, like women
Yeah.
aren't like this. Real women aren't actually like. Look at She-Hulk woman. She's awesome. And it goes through a little bit of her, like all the various people she dated, and every guy is gross again.
Mm-hmm.
Her dad is overprotective. I'm a man. I'm going to protect you from men. Even him. And then every guy she dates is like a total jackhole for some different reasons, except Wong is cool, I guess, but he's eccentric and weird too.
Right.
Erratic.
Right. I don't know. I thought the whole dating thing was hilarious.
I thought it was funny too. Like the one where he just starts texting after she starts talking, and she's like, "Because I'm a superhero," and he's like, "Cool."
Yeah.
And I don't know. I'm different. I don't know, but she's like, the guy's like, yeah, she's maybe a 6, and I think she's more attractive than that, frankly. Even as they portray her there.
Right. Yeah, but I think that's part of the whole thing that's going on.
Like she's supposed to be a 6, kind of.
No, I think it's
Or
part of the whole, like, she's dating and she, for whatever reason, is matching with these idiots, and or also, like, maybe it also feeds into her, like, you can see that there's this battle she's having kind of with herself between being Jen and being accepted as Jen, or being She-Hulk, which, like, you clearly see this through her dating, where the guys, she gets all of these matches when she leans into the She-Hulk side of her, because there's this superficial thing of, like, a superhero on a dating app, and they only want to match with her because she's a superhero. And you see that at the very end when she does, have this, what she thinks is a really great date with this guy, and then she is herself the next day, and he's like, yeah, bye.
he's like, who are you?
Yeah, like, see you later.
I was like, it was so predictable, but it was still like, that's too bad.
Yeah. So, and it just kind of feeds into that whole it creates this very obvious divide, and it makes it really easy to see where her I don't want to say it's like a self-confidence issue, but like you could see where this kind of like doubt comes in about who she should actually be persona wise and whether or not she's liked for herself versus just being She-Hulk.
Well, yeah, exactly. Like what exactly matters, like what matters to, and a lot of unflattering guys, it's just like every guy is just, I don't know. I found myself like skeptical that she would have swiped the correct, I don't even know the right direction. I haven't used one of those apps. But like I found it difficult to think that she had swiped for any of them. Like I don't know. Like I'm not attracted to males, but it seemed like they were all kind of like, ugh, And isn't that the whole thing? You're supposed to swipe people you're attracted to or something?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't
So
know.
you wouldn't have swiped on any of them.
Right. I mean, maybe she would have. I just like they all just seemed like it seemed like she would have higher standards. Maybe I'm just totally wrong here, but
Mm-hmm.
not to say that any of those people are bad. Whatever. But
I don't know. Everyone likes what they like.
okay. All right, that's fine. We can move on. So she yeah, she didn't have any luck, but we didn't see Pug at all. And I think if I had to predict, I think he'll be the if she ends up having a love interest,
Mm-hmm.
which I kind of like the whole motif of like people thinking they need a love interest and then realizing that that's kind of secondary to what they really want in life and
Right.
like pursuing that.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't mind them going that direction too, of like, I'm actually sufficient without anyone.
Mm-hmm. I'm just more curious because now we're 4 episodes in that like I still don't see a major conflict happening.
Right.
So I would like something to happen.
Yeah, like is Wong just gonna be in here the whole season? Is he it's done now?
Right. And like I personally don't want a season of her just having different, superhuman type clients.
Yeah, I mean now she's gonna be fighting this new thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Still.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I would like to see a greater conflict as well.
Right. But I mean, I'm also wondering if we won't see that because of the style that the show is.
So tell me, do you laugh out loud when you watch these? Like, I mean, I don't know if you laugh out loud watching, other funny shows or whatever, but like, I'll laugh out loud if I'm watching a comedian. Some shows will make me laugh out loud. This show has been amusing to me, but I've never laughed out loud really.
I laughed out loud during a couple of the first episodes, the first two.
Mhm.
Um, and then last week's episode I didn't find super funny. Like it had amusing parts. And then this one, episode 4, I wouldn't say I necessarily laugh, but I did chuckle at a few parts. Just because I find like a lot of what happened, particularly with her dating, really relatable.
Okay, that's fair. I was just curious.
Yeah. So it's more of just like a chuckle because it's to me like that whole storyline was very much intended to be for female viewers.
The dating part.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Sure. I mean, you'd think that maybe some male viewers might be like, "Oh, is that what I'm like?" Maybe they could self-reflect a little bit, but,
Sure,
but it's
but
probably not meant to amuse them. Yeah.
no, it's more of a like this is like her experience was very accurate.
Okay. That's it's unfortunate.
Yeah, but it makes you chuckle. So,
That's it. Okay.
yeah. So I don't know. I don't. I wouldn't. I'm still curious to see what happens with the rest of the show. It's definitely not my favorite Marvel show though.
No, I mean it's very take it or leave it right now. Just
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
okay.
And I think like I think that in order to enjoy it, you really can't take it seriously. It's just take it at face value.
Hmm.
It's not meant to be serious at all.
I think that they are trying to make certain social, like certain points though. They're trying to be like, yeah, this is what it's like.
Mm-hmm.
Like I do feel like they're trying to convey certain, especially certain female experiences.
Right. And they're doing, I think, a pretty good job of it.
Sure. But so I think they take that part seriously,
Yeah.
frankly. Like it seems like that part they're like, yeah, we're gonna preach that, or whatever word you want to use for it.
Mm-hmm.
So better or worse. So shall we talk about um
House of the
the
Dragon.
next dating show?
I don't know if you would advertise this as a dating show.
Well, I mean, in a lot of ways, there's a lot of similarities, right?
Yeah, keep it within the family.
No, okay. I think okay. So She Hulk has tremendous pressure to marry, or not to marry, but to date. She feels like
Mm-hmm.
she really wants to date. That's what she's doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's her focus right now. And that episode, in episode 4, that's what she did. Like she focused on that. In the dragon show,
Mm-hmm.
Rhaenyra's, our train, our town, whatever,
Whatever her name is.
she is also under a lot of pressure. She doesn't want to date, but
Mm-hmm.
she's gotta
Yeah.
kind of. Dating is maybe not the right word, but
Get married.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what'd you think of this one? The other two have been kind of violent. I guess the last one, episode 2, was less violent. This
Episode
one,
Episode 2 was less violent. This one seemed to go right back into it.
yeah.
Yeah. And also seemed to really be aboard the marrying your family, children, toddlers train, which was quite disgusting.
Yeah.
So, this was probably my least favorite episode.
Okay. What made
Mm-hmm.
you dislike it the most?
Um, so I do actually like Renara as a character, whatever her name is.
Our town.
Our town. I'm liking her character. I like that she is pretty independent and pretty strong-willed. I I just can't. I don't know what it is. I can't deal with like this whole theme of, marry a child type thing. It's just irking me. At least like get it a little bit older, like 2-year-old. Really, it's a little bit disturbing. So that was bothering me. Didn't love the killing the deer scene. I can't do animal violence. I can do I would rather watch that scene at the end with Damon just like basically going to war by himself multiple times than watch the deer scene again.
Yeah, the deer scene was uh I don't know. There you could see there was a lot of conflict there in him, and I
Yeah.
was kind of focused on him and like kind of his relief of not having to, you know, like what if it had been the white stag? Like what would have happened then? Like what would his nobles have kind of forced him
Right.
to do, you know?
Yeah, it's just not. I don't know. It just really irks me. So, um, yeah, I
What about the boar scene?
I didn't love it either, just because I knew what happened, and I was just like, ugh. But the deer one was worse than the boar scene.
Okay. Yeah, the deer scene was disturbing to me. The boar one, and you mentioned it to us before to me before we start, like before we started recording earlier today. And it seemed like you were equally disgusted. And I don't mind the boar scene, frankly. Like I
Mm-hmm.
didn't need the blood splattering and stuff,
Right.
but like that was a clear sign of that's like self-defense. Like they didn't go hunting for that boar.
Right. Yeah, I didn't need the blood splattering. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I'm curious where they're gonna go with the storyline, and I want to see the storyline play out. I'm just not loving the violence.
Yeah, the violence and the marrying off minors.
Yeah, it's just creepy.
Well, yeah. So Rhaenyra's is her ex best friend because she's very clearly giving her the cold shoulder.
Right.
Um, so Rhaenyra's was 15. The one interesting aspect of the show is how they keep skipping time. Like the last one, it
Mm-hmm.
was between 1 and 2, it was 6 months. Now it's been 2 years, or closer to 3, because he's going to marry Alicent.
Mm-hmm.
So no child on the way, probably. But even if so, that's still 9 months.
Right.
Bear the child, and then the kid is 2 years old at that point.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you bring up like the time jumps because they're supposed to do an even further time jump to the point where Artown and Alicent are gonna get like there's gonna be new actresses playing them because it's gonna jump forward even more, um, which actually makes me a little bit nervous because I do like the actress that's playing Rhaenyra right now. Not that
I
I
like
think,
both of them.
yeah, not that I think like the new ones will do a bad job or anything, but you just get used to something, so
Yeah.
it's gonna be interesting.
It is. Oh yeah, that is a really interesting thing. Like I don't know how what I'm gonna think. Like it seems like if they're gonna have season 2, maybe that'll be the natural point to switch actresses. Like oh yeah, like we're jumping ahead 10 years now, or I
Mm-hmm.
don't know what they're doing.
And it might and like I don't know what they're doing either, but I'm curious if they have flashbacks and then you have these
Mm.
actresses back in like flashback episodes or anything like that. But um yeah, it's gonna I also feel like with the time jumps right now, like you said, it's been what let's say close to 3 years because the kid's two at this point, two ish.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I like if you remove the kid entirely, I myself personally would not be able to tell from the storyline if there's been a time jump.
Right, like they used that almost as like a part of their craft to tell that part of the story.
Right. So because the conflict that they are portraying and the issues that they're having with her with Artown not getting married and not, you know, picking somebody and the clear like cold shoulder that she's giving Alicent has now been dragged out for 3 years. It could be also be 3 weeks. Like
Right.
that type of conflict, right? So they're definitely using that kid as a clock.
Oh yeah, yep. I think so, as a plot device,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. And yeah, I didn't. I so you said you like Rhaenyra. I didn't like her pouting. Like she just like leaves. She's like, nah, I'm leaving. Like I really enjoyed in episode 2 when
Mm-hmm.
she goes and takes a personal hand with her dragon and forces the settlement to that conflict
Right.
at the end. In this one, she's just like moping. She's very teenagery.
I mean, she's technically still a teenager.
Yeah, but like I don't have to enjoy it, I guess.
Right.
Just because, oh, it's natural for her to act like a teenager. It's like, well, first off, like one would hope that she, if so, she's truly an admirable person. Like I would hope, I want to, admire her and want to root for her. You would think that she would show a little more character and a little more poise under this pressure that
Mm-hmm.
she has. Like she's like, I want to keep she wants to keep being the heir,
Yeah.
but she's not helping her dad see that she's, or the court for that matter, see that she's worthy of being an heir at that
Right.
point. They just see a moody teenager and they're like, well, I hope he doesn't die because then we have to deal with her.
Well, yeah, maybe. I mean, I also feel like maybe if you were named heir and then your dad is just like, oh, like the next week is like, yeah, I'm going to marry your best friend and get her pregnant and have a boy.
Sure.
Like, I feel like that would be a little bit, I don't want to say threatening, but I feel like maybe you'd be waiting on him to renege on you being named heir.
Well, yeah, but that's the thing. I guess I'm trying to say is she is waiting. She's not acting. I
Right.
want her to be acting. I want her to be like, okay, Dad, you're doing your thing, and if you choose to take me off as heir, that's your call, I guess. But I'm going to do my very best to convince everyone
Mm-hmm.
that I should be the heir, and including her dad. Like she should be fighting for that, not
Yeah.
not
I
mooting about.
I think honestly part of the problem is the time jump. Like we're not seeing enough of the development that's happening for why they're acting this way.
Sure. Oh yeah, I'm like, so she just acted like this for 3 years.
Right. And you're kind of like, well, why?
Like
Versus,
it gets pretty old if it's 3 years of that.
right. Versus maybe she didn't act like that for 3 years. Speaking from, I will use like a real life example that happened at work. For years, myself and my coworkers acted in a specific manner, um, which was like a professional manner of how what we were supposed to be doing and whatever. Anyway, long story short, while we were doing this, though, we kept getting pushback, and it got to the point where you were like, "You're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't." So we all just said "F it" and stopped. So I'm curious if there was a point there for her where she kept kind of, and we don't see that, like to play devil's advocate, maybe she was trying to prove that she should be the heir
Mhm.
and something was going on that kind of just kept rubbing her the wrong way or being like, yeah, you can keep proving it, but we don't believe you. We don't believe you. We don't believe you. We don't. And then eventually you're like, well, screw it. If you're not going to believe me anyway, I'm going to do what I want.
Sure. Maybe that's one way or another. I'm not that. I liked her character a lot more at the end of episode 2. Episode 3, I'm like, oh, we'll see how
Mm-hmm.
this goes. Like she just walks out of the door. Like her dad is like, all right, I'm not going to take you off of as heir. Like
Right.
he promises her, and he's like, you can choose. And I thought he was being very reasonable, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Like given the circumstances, I thought that he was like, I would like it'd always be preferable for him just in terms of like as a chess piece, like to marry her off and choose like the best strategic decision, like that's more convenient for him. And as king, that's kind of what he should in a way do. Instead, he's like, just choose who you want. You have to do this. And I know that sucks, but follow your heart kind of. And in return, she turns around and leaves, doesn't say a word.
Right. I mean, I don't know. Isn't part of this whole thing about how they just crumble? Like this whole house falls apart?
I don't know. It's still 200 years or something till their house does crumble. So isn't it like this is 200 years from when Game of Thrones happened? So I thought.
Yeah, but this leads up to, I'm blanking on the name of it. There's like a war that happens within the Targaryens themselves. It's not, that doesn't happen in Game of Thrones. That's way after the fact.
Okay.
Um
Yeah, I don't actually know enough about it. I watched that video and now everything's just kind of slowly falling out of my head, like every memory does.
Well, so I
So
guess what I'm getting at is I'm just kind of waiting for them all to implode.
sure, that doesn't mean I have to like the way she's treating her dad after he does a nice gesture. That's all.
I mean, that's fair, but I mean, given how Damon acts, how she acts, how even honestly how her dad acts, her dad's a. I have nothing really very nice to say about him, to be honest. I'm not surprised that we're going to have a war among the Targaryens.
Okay. See, I feel like he's trying to do a good job and just not doing a good job.
I feel like
I
he's
feel like his heart.
spineless.
Sure.
I feel like he has no backbone.
Well, and yet he's chosen to defy a lot of people
Sure.
and piss him off. Like, I don't know. I don't think that everything he does is totally spineless. I think maybe they're the wrong choices. But like promising her that she's not going to remove her as heir, like that's going to put the kingdom in jeopardy too. Like that's going to make a lot of people mad. Yeah, you're right. Like there are some times that he's a little like he's definitely less brutal than maybe a king should be. I feel like he's torn though between being a king and trying to be a family guy and like, you know, take care of his daughter and do right by the people around him, you know, that he cares about. Not whereas he should be brutal. He should be like, yeah, all right, you know, yeah, you are going to marry the person who I need you to marry.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess we'll see.
Yeah. I feel like for him it's he's a little more relatable in some ways for me, like just thinking about like I don't know, I wouldn't want to marry my kid off to some random person who's just, you know, like that Tyler Lannister or whatever.
Jason Lannister.
And Jason, yeah, whatever his name is. Yeah, I don't know. It must have killed him to have to do that.
Didn't kill him to marry his daughter's best friend and not tell her until the day of.
Let's move on to another show. Otherwise, our houses are going to go to war.
Fair enough.
So episode 3 of Rings of Power. So we didn't get any dwarves or Elrond, but the other storylines we progressed. What were your thoughts?
I liked it. I thought it definitely had more enticing moments for me. We had this discussion, or there was a discussion happening on our Discord server that I was reading that was about like if Rings of Power is maybe overwhelming for casual fans or confusing for casual fans. And I could totally see that. Like I can, especially like for me where I'm probably way more towards the casual side,
Yep.
just because I haven't read the books
Sure.
or anything. But I could see why, like, if you were just getting into this, having only watched maybe Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, say you've only watched them once and you really like them, and you're like, okay, yeah, I'm going to watch the show. I could see why it would be confusing.
Oh yeah, I guess so. I'm just absolutely the wrong person to ask because I have not really been lost at all. But
Right.
like I live and breathe this sort of thing. Like this is, you know,
Right.
like
You have the knowledge already.
yeah, and so all this stuff is it feels very intuitive to me. I'm like, well, yeah, clearly this, but I mean, clearly not this. There's very obviously, you know, some disconnect for the casual viewers. So,
Yeah, like even for me, like when I was watching this episode, I was like, okay, I guess this is like an elf slave camp. And you know, where what's his name went with they're all chained up.
Oh yeah, like those are original characters I don't know anything about.
Yeah. But like
I forget his name.
it's just like little things like that where you're like, okay, I guess this is this. And you're just kind of trying to follow along, but then you're also like, why is this important? Um,
I
I
don't think it's just elves either. I think it's humans.
okay,
What it's
I
worth.
just assumed it was elves, but um, it's obviously some kind of like slave work camp. Um,
Sure.
but what I actually did like about that in particular was you have the orcs slash Moon Knight monsters, um, and it like to me that really highlighted Sauron's uprising. Like that, I was like, okay, this is where like we're really getting into the bad.
Yeah, so this is actually one thing I didn't mention last time. This is right in the middle of Mordor. Well, like
Mm-hmm.
that. This eventually becomes like the nation of Sauron. You know,
Oh, okay.
like
Mm-hmm.
you can see Mount Doom in the background a couple times, like
Mm-hmm.
where the rings are forged, kind
Yeah.
of thing. And so like they're the Southlands. This is where all of like Sauron eventually like builds all of his fortresses and just totally takes over, and
Mm-hmm.
the humans are being watched by the elves because in the first stage in the big war,
Mm-hmm.
all the humans who helped Morgoth, the big bad in the first stage, they're all still stuck there, and the elves don't trust them,
Yeah.
and the elves like, so you see these interactions between humans and elves of like, the humans are like, well, they're clearly sick of the elves like looking down their noses at them,
Mm-hmm.
like, oh yeah, you think you're so much better than us, and the elves are like, we can't trust any humans, like they just keep dying and they keep being so changeable, and some of them are okay, but a lot of them are just like not cool. Like they're from bad stock. We don't like, we remember your great grandfather,
Right.
and he was a piece of crap. Like he was awful. And
And you're
you
like,
know,
I don't even know his name.
right, well, and the humans are like, who? Like
Yeah.
they have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's that moment in this show where Galadriel is like, they're looking at she's like, I didn't realize that so and so made this place,
Mm-hmm.
and he's like, oh, because you knew him. She's like, yeah.
Right. Because she's
And
that old.
right, yeah, and that's not even that old for, like, she's like thousands of years older than even that
Mm-hmm.
at the moment. Um but yeah, like you have this sense of like, the elves have seen so much for so long, and the humans, like, they just see the humans as like, we don't know if we can trust you. We got to look out. Like, we don't want to be betrayed again, because that's all the humans ever freaking did
Mm-hmm.
in the first stage, was betray us. Every time it was a human who betrayed us. Every time humans betrayed us. And like, so, and they're being vigilant. They don't, if they think that the bad guys are going to come back and establish themselves, of course the humans are the guys that they're going to look at to be like, well, when are you going to betray us? Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's only been 1,000 years.
Right.
For the elves, that's not too much time. For the humans, it's like, the elves have always hated us.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Um. Yeah. I don't know. I thought this one definitely pushed the storyline further.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still not really, I don't know what it is. I'm not really enjoying Galadriel's, not that I'm not enjoying her storyline. I think it's fine. Um, I'm just more intrigued by this new elf dude and Nori.
Oh man, so gosh, the Gladriel stuff is, in a way, she is all over the place, and I can understand why that's kind of maybe in a way overwhelming to
Mm-hmm.
you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that was the part that intrigued me so much in this episode, actually.
Yeah.
Um,
I was just like, I guess you're in Numenor now.
right. Well, in a way, she's being used as a plot device for us to see, like, hey, we see like they're searching for Sauron and
Mm-hmm.
the wastes, and now they're in the capital city of Linden, and now she's going to Valinor, but no, she's swimming around,
Mhm.
and now she's in Numenor. Yeah, she's all over the place.
Right.
But we got to see Numenor. It's such an important place.
Yeah. I will say the visuals of it were amazing.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. I mean, I don't know about you, but I saw it and I was like, okay, this looks really good. And then my next thought was, this costs a
Mm-hmm.
lot of money.
Right. Yep. Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. Well, it's funny because there's this whole campaign of people who are like politicized, who have been politicized, and they're all going and putting bad reviews up
Right.
about this because there's political elements involved. I really don't want to jump into that, but the common thread is everyone who's giving these reviews, even the people who haven't watched it, tons of people haven't watched it
Mm-hmm.
and still giving reviews, which tells you something. But um they all say it's horrible, but the only reason I'm giving even half of a star out of five, like that's even like, oh, I can't believe I'm even conceding this.
Right.
But everyone still says it's very beautiful. It's very pretty.
It is. Like, it's very, like, you can tell it's really well done. They did a good job on that. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so do you want to talk about the Numenorians or the Harfoots
let's talk
first?
about the Numenorians first because that was, I feel like, the big chunk of the episode.
Sure. Okay. So yeah, I guess what were your thoughts on it for like do you have any questions? Because I feel like that there could be that there's a million questions here
Yeah.
that are going on.
So, okay. So, Numenor, okay, correct me if I'm wrong, but was trying to remember why it was important. I was like, this is where Aragorn is from, right?
uh kind of. He's descended from the
Right,
people of
descended.
Numenor. Yep.
Okay. So these are humans who live longer than the typical human.
Yeah. Okay. So in the first age, uh it I mean so it's like they kind of go over it just like really really briefly at the start of the first episode here,
Yeah.
but the first age, one of the Velar, which is they're Velar are demigods
Mm-hmm.
basically. So one of the Velar steals a treasure called this, like he steals through the Silmarils, that are created by one of the elves, by Fëanor. And he flees across the ocean, and the elves pursue him.
Mm-hmm.
They proceed to have a bunch of wars, and men come into the fray, and it's just this whole thing of, this is the Silmarillion book, and like the elves eventually are just losing so bad that a guy goes and tells the Valar, like, hey, like Morgoth is gonna win.
Right.
He's gonna win. And so actually that guy's two sons, one of them is the one who built the big palace, the big library thing.
Mm-hmm.
They that guy's sons had the choice to become either human or elf. um
Okay.
which is kind of beyond but it actually comes into the story because which you see the picture of Elrond on the chapel.
Mm-hmm.
That's his son. That's what they call him, Elrond half elven, because he used to be human actually.
Okay.
And he chooses to be elven.
Okay.
But anyway, that's like super besides the point. So anyways, Morgoth is eventually, the Valar are like, okay, thank you for telling us that. That's good information to have. And then they go and have a huge crazy war, the War of Wrath, and they beat Morgoth. And then they say, okay, so the humans who helped Morgoth, the bad guy, stay where you're at. Like you can just die in your filth.
Right.
And the humans who helped us, we're going to build you a paradise. And they give them Numenor.
Got it.
And they teach them things. They give them long life, so they live 300, 400 years.
Mm-hmm.
And they teach them how to sail. And so like the humans here, they're well dressed, they have huge like Hellbrand is like, whoa, this is like, men made this is nuts.
Right. So I guess like my next thought is, you have the elves watching the humans, like you were saying earlier, because like 1,000 years ago, the humans betrayed them and they don't trust them. Whereas when Galadriel went into Numenor, it felt like they didn't trust her.
Right.
Right?
Right. So,
sorry, I just want to make
you
sure
go
that
for
I'm
it.
understanding the vibe correctly.
Yeah. Okay. So the thing that's been going on in Numenor, and this is the problem with all the time compression, they're smashing 3,000 years of the Second Age all into like the final events that happen, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
But though actually they're messing around too, because I'm not going to get too in depth here, but they're smashing all of the, so like Tarmariel, she's the queen regent person,
Mm-hmm.
and Farazan is the advisor and everything. Like those are the people who are in charge toward the very end of the Second Age proceedings. I don't want to give any spoilers away, but what's happened in the interim, there's like 30 some Numenorian kings
Okay.
all the way up to this. And at the very start, they were all really good friends with the elves.
Okay.
They were close friends. And so over time, the men had like there became two factions. There were the king's men who were like hated the elves, don't like the elves, don't want to don't have anything to do with like they're bitter because the elves have longer lifespans than them,
Okay.
and so they don't trust the elves, don't like them. And then there were the faction called the faithful,
Mm-hmm.
who are faithful to the elves, who like you with Eärendil, the captain who was following her around.
Yeah.
He's part of that faction, who they're elf friends. Like I love that they added like his name is actually in Elvish,
Mm-hmm.
elf friend.
Right. Okay. So then I guess it got to the point now where there are more people who don't trust the elves versus who do.
Right. Well, in the Last King, what is it? Palantir, which I don't. You've just recently watched some of the Lord of the Rings movies. You remember the Palantir, the Seeing Stones,
Mm-hmm.
like those were made by him, I believe. Like it means like Farseer or something like that.
Okay.
Like so the Palantir be able, like they could talk to it. They're like kind of telephones in a way, but they can also help you see what's going on in the world and stuff. They're
Mm-hmm.
seeing stones. um anyway, so so there was a long line of kings, like people who didn't like the elves, and then he showed up and he's like, yeah, actually the elves aren't bad, and wasn't super popular.
Right. Okay.
But he's like one of the last good kings, and then Tarmariel is supposed to succeed him. And we'll see all those proceedings here now. But yeah, so there's a pretty big faction of the faithful, but they're pretty secretive about it.
Okay. Yeah, because it felt like she was not trusted at all.
Right. Well, yeah, like no one likes the elves. They
Mm-hmm.
kind of went over that a little bit. I feel like
Yeah, they
they're like,
did.
yeah, we don't let elves in here.
Yeah,
Basically.
yeah, exactly. And I think even with like the captain, like he even got some of that his way too, of people being like, "Oh, you brought an elf here," like
Right.
that same idea. So that's the kind of stuff though where if you don't know, like to me, if you don't know any of this information and you're just going into it based off what you've watched in the movies, it's
Mm-hmm.
easy to kind of get lost in all of that.
Oh yeah, I guess I can see that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah. So like Eärendil, so his son Isildur,
Mm-hmm.
he's the guy who eventually like at the in the Lord of the Rings movies, like how they show like a last alliance of elves and men go to fight Sauron, and they chop the ring off of Sauron's hand, and instead of him tossing it into the fires of Mount Doom,
He leaves.
he decides to keep it.
Yeah.
And that's Isildur.
Yeah. So, okay. Yeah.
But
I mean, sorry.
he has a lot of really good things to do before any of that, though.
Right. Okay. Fair. um, yeah, it was just an interesting I, it almost feels it's interesting too because so you have this whole vibe of her of Galadriel going in there where she obviously is the outsider and she's not trusted for all of these reasons. But she also just in general in the first couple of episodes felt like to me she sort of feels like an outsider among the elves as well.
Yeah, you're right. I wasn't really expecting that, but yeah, it does feel like that.
Yeah, so I feel like she's just this kind of like rogue agent of sorts and
Right. Well, it's a pretty grand title to give herself, Commander of the Armies,
mm-hmm.
when she, for all the elves know right now, she's in Valinor and doesn't really, for all functional purposes, exist anymore.
Right. Like they think she stayed on that ship.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's a good point.
Yeah. So it's she's posturing too, but you can also see like what she did was actually really a really poor political move on her end, just because okay, so you go to this island and all the people are like slowly poisoned against elves. They're like, elves are bad. Like elves probably made this annoying wind. Elves, like killed my dog last night, like just probably blaming everything bad on elves.
Mm-hmm.
And then she comes in and they're like, we haven't never seen an elf. Maybe we're wrong. And she's like, with her snoot in the air, she's like, I am a grand, like you need to treat me with deference. You need to, and
Yeah.
everyone's like, yep, just like the elves we thought you were, like you're annoying. Just you're always annoying. Stop being such an elf,
Mm-hmm.
like damned elves did kill my freaking dog. uh, you know uh, so she didn't do any good there. If she had been like, oh man, it's so good to see you guys again, we really have missed being able to talk to you.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are, like, we would love to talk to you more and just reopen, discussions. And like she could do a lot of good. She could really disturb, like none of those guys have ever seen an elf. They've just lived on their little insular island.
But do you think that they would buy that if she had walked in and done that?
Well, you can't, maybe not, but she would have done a lot better
Mm-hmm.
with that, especially with a genuine display of affection rather than the like, I'm better than you, nose in the air thing that she
Mm-hmm.
did.
Right. That's fair.
She's like, you'll save the world by letting me leave because I have important work.
Because I'm gonna go save it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not going to save it. You can assist the person who's going to save it.
Yeah. Um, and then the guy that she's traveling with, this human, I can't remember his
Hellbrand.
name.
Mm-hmm.
Halbrand.
Yep.
Um, he is a made up character as well. Is that right?
Yeah, potentially.
Mm-hmm.
So right now I'm wondering, all right, so we're in this really weird time thing. So yeah, we don't, there's no Hellbrand in any of the books,
Mm-hmm.
but so at some point in the Second Age, Sauron is going to create the 9 rings for the kings of men.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Hellbrand is going to be one of his eventual ring wraiths, is my guess.
Oh, okay. I like that.
Like,
Is that like an official prediction?
from me,
Yeah.
sure. I mean, yeah. Yeah, like I'm curious. Like, so he's yeah, he's like, yeah, he's talking about like the king who swore an oath, the
Mm-hmm.
blood oath to Sauron. And he's like, I'm not the champion you seek. I think he's gonna be like the anti Aragorn, where
Mm.
Aragorn's like, I have this weakness in my blood, but I'm going to overcome it. And I think Hellbrand is going to be like, well, it would be real nice to overcome the weakness in my blood, but instead, I'm just going to become like the Witch King of
Right.
Angmar and just live forever and kill everyone.
Instead, we're just gonna embrace it and go
Right.
full blast.
Well, you saw how vicious he was with those guys. Like,
Yeah.
and man, it just made me so sad because he's like, please don't. It's like almost like he's just hoping that there's some good thing in humanity left
Mm-hmm.
or something. And they're like, nah, we're just gonna beat you up. And he's like, and then he was crazy brutal
Yeah,
with
there
them.
was no middle ground there. He was like, please, please, please don't do this. And then they're like you said, no, we're just gonna beat you up. And he's like, all right, full steam.
Yeah, he's like, all right. I mean, and you can't hardly blame him even. I mean, the level of viciousness he showed was maybe blamable, but at the end of the day, I'm like, I, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
They asked for it. They were given the opportunity to not,
Mm-hmm.
and they didn't take him up on it. Like he asked for mercy, they gave no mercy, so that's what they got in return.
Yeah, it was. But I will say, like when he was, I don't even know if I would call it like begging them not to do it, but like asking them, please, please don't do this. As soon as that started happening, I was like, oh, this isn't gonna go well for them.
Mm.
Like I just got this feeling that he was not gonna be tame about things.
I liked that actually. I
Mm-hmm.
even if he turns into a bad guy, I liked that he's just like, okay, you guys, like what do they call him? Like half man, or it wasn't that, it was like low man or something.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's literally like a different species, really. Like they all look the same, but he's constructed differently. He's gonna die in a few years. They're gonna die in 300 years,
Right.
you know?
Um, but it makes him more of an interesting character to me.
Yeah. Oh, me too. I liked that part a lot. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, sweet. Like, and he beat up guys who kind of deserved it, frankly, a
Right.
little bit.
So it was yeah, I think that I find him more intriguing than Galadriel at this point.
Oh, yeah. Well, and that's the thing. Like, so you say, like, it makes him more intriguing that he's going to live a short life.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it makes a lot of sense that Galadriel, who's been around for multiple thousands of years, she's just been the same thing the whole time. Like,
Right.
she's just haughty and I don't know, like, she's not that likable yet,
Right.
if she ever will be.
Yeah, that's a good point. So,
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah, like the humans do make it more interesting. So, and I will say, yeah, Eärendil, the captain guy,
Mm-hmm.
is a very very interesting character moving forward. Like he's one to watch,
Mm-hmm.
and they created an original character, his daughter, which is not in the books at all.
Oh, okay. But he has the son in the books.
Yeah, he actually has two sons. They mention Anarion,
Mm-hmm.
which is the older son, I think.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But yeah, so him, Isildur, and Anarion are
Mm-hmm.
all they're all pretty important to the whole thing.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was. I don't know. I guess he's interesting to me just because he brought the elf. I shouldn't say the elf. He brought Galadriel. Um.
I loved his composure. I loved how his sense of self was so strong
Mm-hmm.
there. I don't know, like he just seemed so sure of what he was about. And he's the guy, he's like a leader. Like he's one of those guys you're like, man, things aren't going well. And he's like, look, guys, I think it's gonna be fine. And he's the guy you listen to.
Mm-hmm.
He's
Yeah.
so self-assured. I really liked, but yeah, the first parts with him, solid.
Yeah. So I think that was pretty much everything that I can think of in Numenor that kind of, I don't know, I found interesting.
Yeah. So other than the fact that they they had a map of
Oh yeah.
Mordor, apparently.
Yeah, I thought that was funny.
Mm,
I also thought it was kind of
yeah.
funny that like pretty much right away Galadriel looked at it and she's like, "This is a map."
Yeah, she
Mm-hmm.
figured it out.
Yeah. So, which I mean, so my immediate reaction to that was, of course, she figured it out in 2 seconds. Like that's kind of ridiculous. And then I was like, well, if you've been around for thousands of years, you probably know what to look for.
Well, yeah, I think she just needed one little like this is her obsession too. It's
Yeah.
not just she's been around for a while. It's like I mean, it's like this show for me. It's like I know I can understand intuitively a lot of the things that are happening, even though it's like a lot of its original stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, oh yeah, okay. The orcs, they don't like sunlight. Like that's obvious to me.
Right.
And I love that they added that, by the way. But then But you know, to other people, they're like, oh, okay, I guess orcs might not like sunlight, whatever. But to me, it's obvious. To her, though, it's even more like she's driven her whole life to try. This is her whole focus.
Mm-hmm.
She just needed something to bridge the gap, and she was there.
Right. Right. Which makes sense. Like when you think about it that way.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
No, but I mean, you're right. She did just solve it. She's like, oh, yep, cool.
Yeah.
All right, puzzle solved. Let's move.
Next piece. Let's go.
Yep.
Oh man. Um. Cool. Any other thoughts
Ooh.
on Numenor?
So one last thing, I thought it was interesting that she took the time to research Hellbrand, which means she actually found some significance in a human, which I thought was good.
Okay, that's a good point. Or she was
You
just
know,
wanting information to manipulate with.
I mean, even so, like she wasn't just like all humans are animals. Basically, I don't want
Right.
to deal with them. Like she ascribed some level of importance
Mm-hmm.
to him that maybe she wouldn't have previously. So maybe we see a little glimmer of a little growth with her.
Right. Yeah. That, and
Yeah.
I feel like that worked. There was probably like a little bit of a device too, where so you have it where she is acknowledging him and showing maybe that he's important and she gets growth, but it's also us getting info.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not that much growth, frankly,
Right.
but you know, well, she has some work to do for sure before she, you know, she eventually becomes a much more powerful character, but in more than just with her sword.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
we could talk about the Harfoots if you wanted, though.
Yeah. I don't know what it is with the Harfoots. I feel like they're making them really important.
They're kind of cutthroat.
Yeah. But I will say though, when it cut to the scene of them like kind of like skipping and dancing through the forest,
Hmm.
my immediate thought this is gonna sound so lame. Uh Immediately I was like, this is giving me Peter Pan and the Lost Boys vibes.
Oh, they're just kind of wild.
Yeah, like it was giving me that kind of like fun, do what you want type of thing. Um, so it was just entertaining, but yeah, they were. I don't know. Uh, I feel like they're giving a lot of importance to them, especially Nori, and I don't know if that's gonna be a sticking point for people. I'm curious, but I personally don't care because I haven't read the story.
Yeah. Well, so in my opinion, what it seems like to me is like, sure, we get to see a little bit of what hobbits used to be.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think that I think the guy is Gandalf, the
You
stranger.
think so?
I think it makes the most sense. Like I think they want us. I also think they want fans to think he's Gandalf, so they
Mm-hmm.
might be tricking us a little bit. Like Gandalf is the one who pays attention to the hobbits. He's the one who cares about them.
Mm-hmm.
Like Sauron or Saruman, what the White Wizard, the head of their order.
Yeah.
He was always like, no, they're unimportant to the extreme. Like I'm not gonna even. I don't even know where they live. Like who cares about the hobbits?
Mm-hmm.
And Gandalf always kept track of them and always took care of them. And I think this is why. I think he's like, they took care of me
Mm-hmm.
at great personal like peril to themselves, like way outside what they were gonna do. I'm gonna do the same.
Um, and it's funny too. So I in this episode, because I still was like, I don't know who this guy is, but I'm super intrigued. Um, I think this episode probably, whether or not he is Gandalf, alluded to him being Gandalf more heavily, in my opinion. Um, so there were a couple of things that I noticed right away. Um, so you have like that scene where they're all kind of like gathered in the evening, and he's looking at the paper by himself and it catches fire at
Hmm.
the chart. Which one I found hilarious that he was just kind of like right there in the open, so close to them.
I know.
I was like, I saw that. I'm like, are you supposed to be that close? Because I feel like this is gonna go bad. But then like it catches fire, this whole thing. Anyway, and he falls slash runs through their whole setup. And when he stands and he kind of pokes his head through it, that imagery to me was of like a wizard's cloak.
Yeah, it kind of looked like it, didn't it?
Right? Like
Hmm.
that to me, I was like, oh. But then he also immediately after that was looking for Nori. And then you have like his whole like friend bit at the end. So
Yeah.
I think they're heavily hinting towards that. But that imagery where he poked his head through, immediately I was like, I don't know. I just immediately thought of Gandalf with
Yeah. Like a
his little
cloak.
cloak, his robes.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought that was a pretty humorous way of doing it.
Yeah. Oh, and I think it makes sense too. Like, I don't know. Like, you could make him into like Sauron or something crazy like that. But I mean, the fact that he's like friend and he did come from the sky and land like that seems like when they send him, this isn't exactly what it's like in the lore.
Mm-hmm.
Like the lore, he the wizards aren't even in the second age; they're all in the third age, like the start of the third age.
Mm-hmm.
Um, which this is the like kind of the end of the second age, so we can kind of do it. But
Blur the line a little.
yeah, I mean, it's kind of fun.
Mm-hmm.
And Gandalf is a recognizable guy.
I feel like, and this might be an unpopular opinion, but I feel like for something like this, you're attracting people who obviously know, like the Lord of the Rings fans who know the series in and out and want to watch the show, or don't because they think it's gonna be bad. But that's kind of who you're going for. But then you're also going for the casual Lord of the Rings fans, and
Hmm.
the easiest way to do that is to provide fan service, which is hobbits, Harfoots, and
Hmm.
Gandalf. Um,
Yeah.
and I mean, you saw that when they had the Hobbit movie and Legolas was in it, and like that was a fan service moment, right? Which I know we've talked about before. So I could see them having that stranger be Gandalf as a fan service thing to kind of entice people to watch.
Well, yeah, like as like I wouldn't necessarily call myself, maybe I'm a super fan. Like I'm pretty deep into the lore. So I
Mm-hmm.
guess compared to most, I really am a super fan. Uh I might cringe. I don't actually. I'm fine if it's Gandalf. I
Yeah.
just but a lot of people who are in a similar situation as me, I think are gonna have a really tough time accepting that. But the people who are truly the fans
Mm-hmm.
are pretty small compared to the number of audience that they're going to have.
Right.
Really,
I
like
was wondering what that ratio would be like.
I think it's pretty vanishingly small. Like there is still a pretty decent number of people who like the lore a lot,
Mm-hmm.
but I mean, it's been around for a long time, but it is so hard to crack into the lore of it.
Right.
Like it just really is. Like the language use and stuff. It's very dry. It's very old, and people will argue with me till it's blue about how compelling it is, and it just isn't to me compelling. And I mean, I have a degree in English literature. Like you think that if it's going to be compelling to me
Mm-hmm.
or to someone, it'd be compelling to this guy who's read through a lot of these dusty old tomes.
Right.
I love the lore of it. The story is really cool. It's really deep and awesome and pretty boring to me to read.
That's fair. So
So
yeah, I
yeah,
thought I don't know. I like the Harfoots. I think they're humorous.
yeah. I'm just like it's just sad to like they're talking about all the different people who died, and it's sad,
Yeah.
and then they're just like, and you guys might get left behind, and if you do, I guess just f off.
Yeah, it was sad. It was just like an overall it was a huge difference from what you saw with them coming in, like dancing and singing.
Well, and they're all like, and we all take care of each other, and that's actually kind of false, actually.
Yeah.
A little bit cutthroat. I don't really. They display a kind of nasty side, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. They do.
I don't really like it.
So I'm in. I don't know. I think maybe the Harfoots might be my favorite part of the show so far.
Could see that.
So
Cool.
yeah. Are
All
you
right.
excited for the next episode?
Oh yeah. Yeah, this was the first one I was like, oh, that was pretty cool. I like the action scenes
Mm-hmm.
actually. Though I will say the warg was really poorly done. There was a
Oh,
few times the CGI I was like, that's $1 billion of CGI. Oh.
I meant to ask you, yeah, because when that was coming out, I didn't catch, like, I heard what he said, but I didn't really hear what he said, and so it was a warg. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of like pig slash warthog thing.
So orgs are like rideable wolves for orcs to be able to go and kill things with, and like wargs are go hand in hand with orcs usually.
It
Like
it looked like a mean version of Pumbaa.
I didn't love it. I thought that was like the
So
only
that was just a
time.
bad portrayal. Then it should look more wolf-ish. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I mean they call it like it, in the Two Towers.
Mm-hmm.
uh Saruman releases the warg riders, and they're called the wolves of Saruman.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're wolves. They're big, nasty, vicious wolves.
Yeah.
And that thing was supposed to be a wolf-ish
Okay. It
thing.
did not look like that.
I
It literally.
thought it looked okay like it, but yeah, it was. I just thought that there were some times it was like, I don't know, just not well animated.
It looked like a mean Pumbaa.
Okay.
I thought it was some kind of weird warthog thing
Yeah, it's
because that's what it kind of looked like to me.
supposed to be a wolf thing.
All right, well then I agree with you that the CGI maybe wasn't spot on there.
Yeah.
I will say that whole scene was really sad just to watch them like fighting to get free, and then you realize that even if you do escape, you're not really gonna escape.
Yeah, well, I thought that it was a really sad part, and I actually really liked it. The artistry of showing just how vicious the orcs are. They're like, you are brave, you are strong, like you earned your group
Mm-hmm.
water. So they're all drinking water, and they don't trust the orcs. They're like, oh, maybe it is safe. Like we got some water, cool. And then the orc just like as he's
I
drinking water,
know.
just slices the guy's throat. Like, hmm.
I know. It was that was a I've actually gasped at that.
Yeah, well, it was done. It was so slow, like so deliberate.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, um yeah, I think this episode, just as like a final thought, especially towards the end, I was like, okay, I feel like we've kind of kicked off a bunch of these storylines now that it feels like we've got the momentum going, and I want to
right.
like go into the next one.
Yeah, I'm excited, man. This was the first two. I was like, well, it's pretty, but we
Mm-hmm.
gotta wait and see. We gotta just wait and see. And this one, I was like, oh yes, like I was sometimes just like excited about things,
Yeah.
like, oh, that was cool, that was awesome. I got to see this. Like, this is the first time that it actually elicited a lot of emotion in me.
Yeah. So it definitely intrigued me more this time, which is
Good.
great because the second one I was kind of on the fence with. So this one was more hooking.
Good.
Yeah. Cool. So that's it, I think.
I think so. Should we just call it a day?
Yeah, I think we're done. I mean, this is a extra long episode apparently.
Oh, sorry about that.
No, it's fine. I kind of felt like it would be. Um, yeah.
All right. Well, we'll try to keep it shorter next time.
No, I think we're good. So
All right.
I guess till next week, when it's still only 3 shows next week, right? We're still only on
Yep.
House of the Dragon, Rings of Power, and She-Hulk.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Well, hopefully we have time for all 3.
I hope so.
All right. That's it.
All right. That's over.